Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, where you can shop online and get easy delivery or free pickup. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Shop the weekly ad, clip deals, and earn points at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.
It's Election Day. Remember, you'll see 2 statewide ballot questions and most likely some local ones where you live as well. Drop off your ballot or go to a vote center. As of Monday, just about 21% of voters statewide had returned their ballots. You can use the voter guides from CPR, Denverite, and KRCC at the link in our show notes. I'm Arlo Perez Esquivel. Coming up, an update on the investigation into the deaths of 6 people at a dairy in northern Colorado.
The toxicology reports also revealed a lot of other things that were in their blood: bromine, arsenic, lead, bismuth.
Then, a federal judge considers whether ICE is following the law in the state when it detains people with community ties.
They think that there are dozens and dozens and dozens of people to whom this has happened.
Plus, a music lift from a popular local band.
We healed together through this song. I guess the hope is that other people can relate and heal listening to it as well.
It's Tuesday, November 4th. Here's the news in Colorado today. We've just gotten confirmation on what caused the deaths of 6 workers who were found at a northern Colorado dairy farm in August. CPR's Celine Tassi has been following the story from the beginning. Tassi, what's new with this case?
We received the autopsy reports and the toxicology reports for the 6 people who died in that accident on August 20th. And the death of all 6 workers were ruled as accidental, and the cause for all of them is hydrogen sulfide gas exposure.
Hydrogen sulfide gas? I've heard of that. That's a thing in bogs and swamps that makes it smell like rotten eggs, right?
That's exactly right. That rotten egg smell is created by organic decomposition. And a lot of people who are regularly exposed to it, if they sniff it, they may be kind of nose blind to it, such that the smell doesn't really have that same offensive odor.
Okay, but as I mentioned, that swamps and bogs, what is it doing at a dairy farm?
There are some reasons that it might have been there. One of them is that hydrogen sulfide gas is a byproduct of the breakdown of manure. So that's one possible reason, because some people have speculated that they were working in a manure pit when the accident happened. But like I said, Arlo, we don't know 100% for sure. If someone is exposed to it, it can cause them to become unconscious or even go into a coma.
If we know that this gas is deadly and we know that it can happen through natural things, the natural breakdown of manure, was it being monitored at these dairies?
Well, that's something I would really love to be able to say for sure. There are ways to monitor that kind of gas, but it's not clear yet if those precautions were taken. I talked to a gentleman named Dr. James Sonner, and he's in Orange County. He's an expert who testifies in cases where there's issues of toxicology or pharmacology. So I interviewed him last Friday, and he told me that there could have been poor ventilation in the space that they were working in. And he said that that could have caused them to pass out from the lack of oxygen.
Okay, to the point that Dr. Sonner made, we still don't know what they were doing when they died.
Yes, that's correct. And that's partially because the toxicology reports also revealed a lot of other things that were in their blood that shouldn't have been there. I can tell you what some of those different substances were from the report. So it says that they have bromine, arsenic, lead, bismuth, selenium, mercury.
So that's a whole laundry list of deadly chemicals.
Yeah.
So how do those chemicals end up in their blood?
That's the $640,000 question. I don't have the answer to it, and I don't think that anyone really knows.
I want to take a step back because we've been talking about this mystery so much that we might be missing who these people were in the first place. So remind us, who were the victims?
So they were all Hispanic men. One was actually a teenager who was 17. The oldest was his father, who was 50. They all lived in about, I'd say, like an hour radius of the farm, either in Greeley or in Alt or in Evans or communities that surround the farm. And the communities are still just waiting for answers as the investigation continues. I know the mother of one of the two brothers, we got a chance to interview her, and she said that she hasn't heard anything as far as how the dairy farmers will try to compensate the families of the victims and stuff like that. That's information we're still trying to track down.
Well, on that subject, it must be awful for them waiting for answers. So do we know how much longer the investigation might take?
Well, OSHA is the organization that's doing the investigation, and it has 6 months from the time of the accident to wrap it up. However, because the government shut down in October, the timeline could be impacted by that. So it's not clear whether or not the conclusion of that investigation is still on track.
What about other workers that are still there at the dairy? Has Prospect Valley said anything about how they might be protecting those workers from similar exposures?
Well, Arlo, they haven't really shared anything with us. I reached out to a PR person for the dairy on Friday, and basically she sent me an email saying that they're standing by their earlier statement, which basically says that they want to express their ongoing support of the families of the people that died, and also for their employees who are grieving their losses. The tragedy is currently under investigation by OSHA, and so because of that, they said that they're unable to comment further on any details at this time.
CPR Celine Tassi, thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure, Arlo. Thank you for having me.
Recently, ICE picked up a father and two kids in Durango, sending them to a detention center in Texas. Now, ICE says they were not the people the agency initially intended to detain. They initially thought the man was someone else, but they decided to pick up the family anyway and put them in custody indefinitely. It's an example of what the ACLU argued in a Denver courtroom can happen when ICE doesn't follow the law. They want a judge to stop the agency from detaining people who aren't a flight risk. CPR's Allison Sherry was in court and has more on this family from Durango and the rest of the hearing. Allison, what's the type of conduct by ICE that the ACLU is taking issue with?
Yeah, so big picture, the ACLU is arguing that ICE has not been following federal law. Federal law requires that in order to throw someone in detention, sort of indefinitely, the person going in doesn't know when they're going to get out. They have to both have probable cause that they're here in the country without documentation, and they have to do a whole assessment on whether this person is a flight risk, which means that they'll flee and they won't show up for any court hearings and, their immigration proceedings. And the ACLU is particularly arguing that second part of the law has not been being followed since Trump took office, that ICE is detaining people all over the state, dozens and dozens and dozens of people, without assessing flight risk. And this Durango story really exemplifies this because this guy didn't have a criminal record. He has ties to the community. He has a pending asylum claim. His kids are in school. His partner is in the community. Everybody has jobs. They have a house. They have a family dog. They're not going to just abscond and fly away and never show up again. There's been no proof of that. And there, in the case that went in front of a federal judge, they had a number of plaintiffs with a similar story that ACLU says resulted in illegal detentions.
In the court hearing, they actually focus on other instances where something like this also happened, right?
Correct. 4 of the plaintiffs named in the initial filing all had similar stories. They have no criminal records. They have longstanding ties to the community. They belong to churches. They're in school. One of them was the college student, Caroline Diaz Gonçalves, who you might remember this story, Arlo. She was the University of Utah nursing student pulled over in Mesa County near Grand Junction for a traffic stop. She's considered a dreamer. She was brought here as a child by her parents who overstayed a tourist visa. I think they would argue Gonçalves was never going to be a flight risk. She has very deep ties to the United States. Another man who took the stand, a guy named JST, was only identified in court with his initials, was detained in a raid in Aurora on February 5th. He was just driving to work. He's had the same job at a market in Aurora for more than 10 years. He doesn't have a criminal record. And then he was detained by ICE for 50 days, and he lost everything. He lost his apartment. He lost all of his belongings. He wasn't able to pay rent from inside the detention center. And he cried on the stand. He was like, this really did ruin my life. And he was not, I think the ACLU would argue, he also was not a flight risk.
Wow, that would be a difficult situation for anyone. I'm curious, how is ICE defending the legality of what they've been doing?
Yeah, they've basically said, you're going to have to trust us. We are trained. We make only lawful arrests. And in all of these cases, they attempted to defend why these people were detained. The judge seemed skeptical of some of these as well. I will say this federal judge, R. Brooke Jackson, referenced a lot that ICE is already in hot water for this, that there is a law in place that they're supposed to be following. At the very beginning of this, he just asked them point blank, can you just agree to follow the law and we can all go home? We don't have to have this 2-day trial. We don't have to go through this work. And, the federal government said, no, we want to defend the actions that we've taken. There are people we think need to be in detention, and this is why. And so we're going to see what he ends up deciding. And he will issue a ruling. Now, what the remedy is, I don't know. So that's what we're waiting for now.
CPR reporter Allison Sherry, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's set the hard news aside and get a lift from a local band who's definitely having a moment. They're called May Be Fern. This track, Old Ways Die, turns a hard experience into an empowering anthem with some strong 80s new wave vibes.
I grew up listening to a lot of 80s and new wave music from my parents. In my opinion, it's like one of the best eras. And I wrote that riff that starts the whole song, and the song just kind of took off from there in that 80s direction. Hi, my name's Maddie Spillman, and I play guitar in May Be Fern.
I'm Kate Fern, and I do vocals and bass guitar in May Be Fern.
I'm Hannah Mae, and I do vocals and play keys in May Be Fern.
The two of us write lyrics, and lyrically it's about overcoming sexual assault, also the grander scheme of letting go of things that aren't serving you anymore.
Maybe it's time to let the old ways go. Maybe it's time to let the old ways go. Where will I go? Maybe it's time to let the old ways go. Where will I go? Maybe it's time to let the old ways go.
Hannah and I used this song to address something that we were struggling to find closure with. So the song is a conversation between us, and you can hear us talking back and forth of you gotta let it go, but I'm scared to, but you've gotta. And then okay, yeah, it is time to let the old ways die.
Your past is ending.
Holding on to it, was painful.
And it wasn't serving us.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
And finalize the love. You touched me in the dark. Was that supposed to be my character arc?
I just could not sit with that. It pissed me off so bad that suddenly I was defined by somebody else's actions. Just because you did something to me, that doesn't define me. That isn't my character arc.
Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die.
healed together through this song. I guess the hope is that other people can relate and heal listening to it as well.
I'd say also that this is the first song that we got to work with a female producer and engineer, and especially with this subject matter, like, the process for this was just, it flowed, and she got exactly what we were going for.
Maybe it's time to let the old ways go, and I'll be feeling low. Maybe it's time to let
And then we come out of the bridge yelling.
rectify. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die.
And then that last chorus where, like, we have let go.
Yeah,
Like, we
and
did let
everything's
them die.
bigger and everything's like, it's almost like we're like releasing everything.
Maybe it's time to let the old ways die.
After the big last chorus, it just kind of brings home the point of, like, let it go. Like, release, just let everything out, and then the song's over and it's gone. Like, you've moved on.
That's Denver band May Be Fern with their song Old Ways Die. They're a local 303 favorite of listeners of our friends at Indie 1023. Reporting for today's show came from CPR's Stephanie Wolf and Juanita Hurtado Huérfano. Thank you for listening to today's show. If you appreciate waking up to the latest local news, consider making a donation. Link is in our show notes. I'm Arlo Pérez Esquivel. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, where you can shop online and get easy delivery or free pickup. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Shop the weekly ad, clip deals, and earn points at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.